Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome all to the Run, Draft and Pray podcast. I am your host, Pedro Barbosa, and we have our resident former racing driver, Mr. Earl Goddard, with us.
Hey, everyone.
Hello. So today we're going to talk about the Italian GP and all of the shenanigans that went off. But that's a subject for later, let's say. So let's start maybe from the beginning of the weekend. We had kind of a similar first part of the weekend. We had Ferrari kind of in the front. The only thing that we didn't have really was Mercedes in the mix. We didn't have that part. But apart from that, we had basically the same thing. Ferrari in front for all of the first practices, and then Max just started to raise the game a little bit.
Yeah, but then didn't we find out in practice 1 or 2 that Max was going to take a gearbox penalty?
Yeah, it was on the first day that we discovered probably something related to what we had in Zandvoort, which was we had Red Bull worried about his gearbox and having to break a seal and check out everything. So obviously they decided that there was a problem, but it was manageable for that particular Grand Prix.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think it was something along gearbox lines.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically what I had. So, practice 1 and practice 2, both the Ferraris basically finished on top. And then on Saturday, practice 3, Verstappen raised the pace a little bit, and Red Bull actually raised the pace a little bit. And we had Verstappen on P1 in the end of practice 3. So there's not really that much to talk about. We knew from the beginning of the weekend that Hamilton was going to take a penalty to the back of the grid, and Yuki Tsunoda and his shenanigans of both last Grand Prix and a mistake with I think it was a yellow flag in free practice 2 or 3 even did further damage. So yeah, we already knew that both of those were going to go to the back of the grid. Actually, I saw a very good graphic on Twitter, I think, that it basically showed how everything went penalty-wise. It was very good. I have to find that again.
Yeah, I remember. I saw that one as well. It was pretty impressive. Sliding back and forth and where everyone ended up.
Yeah. It was very, very nice. I honestly have to find that. So we went into qualifying, and it was basically the same kind of deal. We had basically the same kind of drivers in the back. Schumacher was going to take a penalty as well, so he basically didn't take part of qualifying, but both Haas on the last 2 places. Yeah, I don't know if it's the low downforce part of what you need on this track, but it was straight at messy for them all of the weekend.
Yeah, they were struggling from the start, weren't they? Just didn't have anything.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the best way to put it.
And then we had both the Aston Martins that are struggling with straight line speed anyway. So yeah, we have that as well. And then after them, we have Latifi, which we thought he was going to do way better than he did, because the Williams is actually seemingly made for this track. So yeah, we'll talk about him a little bit later, but yeah, it wasn't very good for him. And I forgot to mention, Alex Albon had appendicitis on the Friday. So he was basically back to the back of the grid. He had surgery. Sorry,
he wasn't on the grid.
He wasn't on the grid, no. And he was replaced by Nick de Vries, who actually did free practice one in one of the Essens. So yeah. And by the lack of my mentioning Nick de Vries on qualifying one, you can actually just he went through to Q2 while Latifi. Fuck, I'm always getting those two names mixed up. Yeah, while he just it doesn't give a very good image of yourself when your rookie teammate that only did one practice session with the car that you've been driving for the entire year goes on to qualifying 2, and you again cannot pass into Q2. It doesn't.
Yeah, he's not done himself any favors there, has he?
No.
Yeah, if he's hoping to stay in that car, I think this weekend might have hurt him an awful lot.
Is he?
As we'll find out.
Is he?
I don't know.
Yeah, just messy, to be honest. And I'm not talking about the football god. I'm talking about mess.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so then we went on to Q2, and we had both of the Alpines again not going into Q3. So it repeats, and it's not of lack of downforce, because it's basically the track with less downforce on the calendar. And then Mr. Bottas, and then Mr. Nick de Vries, which actually had a P13. But am I crazy in thinking that he could have gone into Q3 if not for that mistake into the second chicane?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. It would have been touch and go.
Yeah, because he actually was 0.2 up on the first sector when he made that mistake. So the first sector timing point is just before that chicane. And he actually was 0.2 up. So yeah, he was on for a good lap. And I don't have which one. Alonso did a 21.8, and which one? 8.6, and then Norris 21.831. 8.55 was the Ricardo. So who is it? Who is it that gone? Probably
Q2.
Q2, yeah. So I'm just checking what time he would have to do. Oh, it was Gasly, 22.0. So it was 0.2 off. If he didn't lose any time in the rest of the lap, he was to Q3. So it wasn't that crazy that he could have gone to Q3. Because his best lap was a 22.1, and the time to go to Q2 to Q3 was 22.0. So 2/10 up, yeah, you would be in the 21.9 kind of a realm. So yeah, very good display of talent there. So that was our Q2. So we had Alonso, Ocon, Bottas, De Vries, Zhou, and Tsunoda being on Q2. Tsunoda didn't do any laps because he knew he was going to the back of the grid anyway, so it didn't bother. So Alonso, no, Alonso you to Q3, yeah. So in Q3, we had, I'll be honest, I was surprised by Ferrari's pace this weekend, because after what happened in Spa, I didn't really think that they were going on for the... I think nobody thought that they were going to get pole. So my only question here, how much of this weekend was Red Bull in the Verstappen camp trying to play it safe and just win the race measurably, so trying to spare a little bit of the car?
I think when it comes to quali, they were obviously Max and Leclerc and Sainz were the fastest. We knew that Max wasn't going to be on pole with his penalty, but I'm sure he still would have liked to have physically set the fastest lap. Same with Carlos, was heading to the back of the grid. I was quite happy that Charles put it on pole on pace as opposed to just getting it on rollback because people had grid penalties. But I think the pace that they showed it all weekend, they were there. It was going to be more a case of whether they could actually manage it through the race. Let's be honest, that's where they've been struggling. They've either had a fast car and not managed the strategy, or they've not had a fast car and still not managed the strategy. And this weekend, they seemed to nail it. They had the car, handling well.
Yeah,
I don't think Red Bull were. I think Red Bull knew that if Max can stay in touch with them at the start of the race, he'll be able to catch and pass them because he had that much pace. He was passing people without DRS.
Yeah.
I think that kind of sums it up.
Yeah, basically it's that. And so qualifying places were Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, which he took penalties as well.
Yeah, I think he was back of the grid.
Back of the grid, yeah. Then Perez, Hamilton and Russell, which P5 and P6 for Mercedes in a high-speed track, I think it's quite encouraging for them.
It is, and especially when you look at their times, Hamilton on a 21.52 and George on a 21.54. So that, I think, was the maximum that car could give, that they were within 200ths of each other.
Yeah.
They were fully lit.
Yeah. And it just shows one more, if you still need a showing that Russell is doing a mega season. Yeah. Being this close to your 7-time world champion teammate, extracting all from the car. Yeah, it's a really good show of what you're capable of. But Hamilton had a penalty. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Then we had Norris and Ricciardo, the two McLarens going into Q3. It was very good to see that. Yeah, Ricciardo was... this is not Mercedes. Ricciardo was a bit off Norris.
4/10 off.
Yeah, 4/10 off. It's not... in such a short lap, it's not like... it's a big difference in pace.
It was still encouraging for Danny Rick to get through after the last few races he's had. Let's be honest, he's having an abysmal time this season. And it's nice to see, but then having won there last year, he's quick there, so
yeah. And let's be honest, it's not as discouraging as Perez being 1 second off the pace of Verstappen in at Monza.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that wasn't the worst qualifying of his life for any means. So then we had Gasly, a long way off McLaren, and then Alonso was going. He didn't set a lap.
He had his lap taken away.
Yeah, he had his lap taken away.
Limits.
Yeah, track limits. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, that was our qualifying P10. But then we go to the starting grid, and let's just think about this. We had Leclerc, Russell, Norris, and Ricciardo. So both McLarens on the second row of the grid. Then Gasly, Alonso, Verstappen, because he only took a few penalties, so it was 5 places.
5 place, yeah.
And then Mr. Nick De Vries starting in P8, so his starting place was much better than his qualifying, so that was good for him. Then Mr. Zhou and Latifi starting P10.
And two Williams in the top 10.
Yeah, 2 is the top 10. Then both Astons with Vettel in front. Perez, Ocon, Bottas, Magnussen, Schumacher, Sainz, Hamilton, Tsunoda. So that's our starting grid for the race. And I have a few notes here. Tsunoda penalized 10 grid places for accumulating 5 reprimands during the current championship, and that's because he got reprimanded. I'm not sure if was it for stopping again on track, or was it for driving without the seatbelts. I'm not sure.
I would have thought it would probably be for driving without seatbelts, because that's a big no-no.
A big no-no. He must have told the team. If the team told them to just carry on and go to the pits with the seatbelts like that, it's a major F up.
Yeah, I mean, whether he didn't tell them or I don't know, obviously at slow speed it's easy to drive it around and it's not a problem, but it's one of the few rules that they do have where it's a massive no-no.
Yeah, and
loosen them, but don't undo them.
Yeah, that was Charlie's quote from actually a few videos that I wish they would do more often on the drivers meeting. Those were some very nice videos. So yeah, and 3 grid places for failing to slow down yellow flags during practice, like I said. So Hamilton, Tsunoda, Sainz from the back of the grid, and Perez, Verstappen, and Bottas were penalized. Perez 10 places, Verstappen 5, and Bottas 15 grid places. All of them for various pieces of the power unit, and I think they are bundling gearbox with power unit here. So yeah, that was it. So we go to the start of the race. I finally made a few interesting facts I put here for the race. We actually were using the C4, C3, and C2 tires. So it was the middle ones, for those of you that don't know, to sort of make it a little bit simpler for fans to follow. They actually have 5 compounds, but they choose 3 for each race. So these were the middle of the ones, so middle of the road ones. And we had 2 Dutch drivers on the grid. That's not common.
No.
And we have only the first driver, like that's almost a given, starting from with so many penalties, starting from the place he qualified. And And Monza, the track with most Grand Prix hosted. So yeah, those are some interesting facts just before the race. So it's a massively popular Grand Prix. They have all of the tifosi there. I was kind of surprised how many orange t-shirts there were on the crowd. That's not very usual at Monza. Normally it's all red and nothing else. But there were some grandstands that had a few orange fans. I'll let you guys discuss if it's McLaren fans or Max fans, like they are always joking about. But yeah, it was crazy, and we have to condone some of the actions. I actually saw a few videos of bullying going on the crowd by the part of the tifosi against Verstappen fans, like making them take caps off and shirts off and all that stuff, just bullying them into it because there were so many. So that's not good and not what we want, and something that we were supposed to associate with Verstappen fans, not other fans. So it just shows that, yeah, the problem is not only Max Verstappen fans, as many people are trying to make out, but yeah, it's a trend.
Definitely not.
It's a trend that we don't want in motorsports.
Yeah, it's not acceptable. We should be able to just go watch races and support who you want to support.
Yeah.
Whether it's an influx of new fans to the sport through the likes of Drive to Survive and sport becoming more popular in that sense, and maybe getting more football fans. That's sort of the sort of behavior you'd expect from English soccer fans.
Yeah, I like that an Englishman just said soccer.
But it's because we're a worldwide podcast, so I have to appeal to everyone.
I think that's a first. Bump, Draft and Pray podcast, the podcast when you can hear verses. So yeah, so from the starting 10, I usually make more notes about the top 10 more than the rest of them, because if we talked about everything, we would be here until Friday. So the only ones starting us softs were Leclerc, Russell, Verstappen, and De Vries from the top 10. All of the other ones started on mediums. That includes both of the McLarens. So yeah. But as we're going to speak, there were many available. Many of two available strategies, perfect strategies to go on. So yeah, so with lap 1 was, yeah, it was a little bit strange because you had Norris anti-stall. Yeah, you were going to say anything?
Yeah, exactly. Norris anti-stall kind of, that was about it from the actual start, and the run down to T1 is, I think everyone else got a fairly
good
normal start, good start, and yeah, his was dreadful, and it's just lucky to not cause more incidents into the first corner.
I'm going to just say that I think it did a good job of staying clear of any kind of trouble, because many times, like we saw with Perez, when you do a bad start, you tend to just swerve around the track and try to cut off people so that you lose as many places as possible. But he didn't do that. He just owned the fact that his stop was ruined and just went on his line. And he was actually able to take advantage of that, meaning he didn't lose that many places.
No,
just by being clever.
Worse.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse because it was painful. He was stopped for so many time. I thought it was clutch, but apparently it was some setting on the steering wheel that were wrong. Don't know if, because I don't know his relationship with his engineer. I don't know if the engineer is the one who always tells him to do this, that, and that, or if he's just supposed to know all that and do that alone. So something failed there on the starting procedure part, and yeah, it was gobbled up for. It was actually like P8. It's
I think
T1.
it went back to 8. Yeah.
T1. So yeah, Verstappen and Gasly had a great start, and Verstappen was already P4 and then P3 by the end of the first lap. So he started P7 and was P3 already in the end of the first lap. Can we just think about that? Yeah, it was mega start.
Yeah, it's very ominous of what was to come for the remaining 52 laps.
Or remaining 49 laps.
49.
So yeah, at this point we had so the top three were Leclerc, Russell, and Verstappen. Actually, into T1, the first chicane, we had a little bit of a tussle between Russell and Leclerc. Actually, Leclerc pushed him a little bit out, but like nothing crazy like we saw already. I saw a little bit of the F2 race, and it was yeah, it was sketchy. It was very sketchy. I actually saw one move that I was really, I don't know if you saw the start of the feature race. Which one is the last one? It's the feature race.
Feature race? No, I didn't.
Yeah, it was crazy. I saw one move that was really scary. We had a crash in the first lap, and a driver failed to go through the chicane, and it was a little bit almost like Russell, but he just went on the inside and accelerated so much that he ended up on the middle of the track after the left hand. It was crazy. Of course, they crashed, all of them. It was like 3 drivers only on that corner that were already out. So yeah, good for Russell not to do that and just maintaining his car where it should be and not understeering into the middle of the racetrack and taking out Leclerc. So yeah, that was nice from him. And then lap 5, we already had Max into P2, and actually Sainz had a very good start, because on lap 6 he was already P10. So he started from the back of the grid and was already P10. And at this point I have a message here that one of the surprises of this race was that McLaren actually had some good top speed and a good racing car for Sunday. And at this point I just noticed that it was, yeah, that's good, because Daniel he was in front of a train and the DRS train, and that, when the commentators from the TV said, made my son finally looking at a Formula 1 race, because he thought it was trains. And yeah, McLaren had very nice top speed even without DRS, so that surprised me. And yeah, then lap 7 we had our first pit stop. It was Perez. Do you actually know why they stopped him so soon? It was a little bit strange.
Was that the stop? His brakes were smoking as well.
On fire, yeah.
Yeah, which isn't uncommon for them to get that hot that they catch fire while stationary, but then once you get going, they get put out again.
Yeah, but it took like 2 laps for the smoke to go out.
But it did take an awful lot of time. So whether they saw something on the sensors, because I think they ended up having him put the brake bias back to try and save the fronts.
Yeah.
So more than likely they've seen something and gone, we need to just preemptively stop it, check it, to change it and go again.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would have been strategy to stop that early.
No, lap 7, it's way early. I know this track is very good on tires, as we saw after that, but even with a set of hards going till the end of the race, I mean, it's possible, but you have horrible pace in the end of the race. So, yeah. And lap 11. I've been a Ferrari apologist for all of the year, but Leclerc got a message saying that Verstappen was on plan C. I mean, they are using all of the alphabet for other drivers as well now.
Yeah. I'm not sure how they knew he was on plan C, but...
And what plan C is. So they must have been saying that it was on plan C compared to their plans, because they have no clue what plan C is for Red Bull.
Exactly.
Even I don't know if Red Bull has plan A, plan B, plan C, and all that. So I never heard a Red Bull engineer talk about that. So yeah, so that was fun.
The Red Bull guys tend to tell the drivers what they're doing and not ask them
for plans. Yeah,
what they want to do.
Yeah, and that as well. So, and it's at this point that the Mercedes in the back of Vettel's car just decides it's had enough, slow pace, so it just explodes. And we had a virtual safety car in the start of lap 12. At this point, signs his P5. At this point as well, Leclerc has been losing time to Verstappen. Verstappen was much faster than him, which is a little bit not strange, because Ferrari has had like bad race pace all year, or at least in this part of the year. But Verstappen was the one going through the, or at least a little bit of the grid. So, and Leclerc had good clean air in front of him.
Yeah.
And at this time, Ferrari decided to stop Leclerc. And this, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've been arguing this on social media, I think was the worst strategy decision by Ferrari all year. Is this statement very controversial?
I don't know if it's the worst. We've got a long season to go.
So far, let's say the worst so far, because they put him on mediums on lap 12.
Yeah, I think they saw virtual safety car. They saw they had the option of the cheap stop. He was struggling. Well, we assume he was struggling with the tyres. Yeah, stick him on a set of hards and at least have the potential to go long and play the one-stop strategy unless you get a safety car later in the race. Yeah, sticking him on mediums was a bit of a... I think the Red Bull must have sat there and gone, oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, I can actually picture Christian Horner rubbing his hands and thanking the Ferrari strategists.
But then I think a double whammy that they were unlucky that the virtual safety car ended as he sort of hit his pit box, so that everyone went back up to full speed, and the cheap pit stop wasn't
that cheap. But they must. I must not be the only one watching the car stop just at the marshal's post, just where it has an opening to get the car out, and Vettel actually stopping the car in the perfect place to just wheel the car out, and think that's going to be.
Whether they thought we're close enough to pit entry that we can get in and get out before they go green again, then they might have just been unlucky. Well, they were unlucky.
Yeah, they were sort of, because it wasn't. They were unlucky in parts, but they were lucky because and we lost Mr. Earl on the. Are you there? So yeah, actually we lost Mr. Earl. I'm going to continue. I'm not going to stop the live stream. So yeah. Oh, we really lost Mr. Earl. So yeah, guys, I'm going to just keep talking until we get Mr. Earl back again. So my reasoning for it being a bad decision was that I actually thought it was going to be very very quick, the safety car, and it actually proved right. It went the virtual safety car actually ended right when Leclerc's car was passing the pit exit, and he disengaged the limiter. And once that happened, the time that he lost, that he didn't gain with the virtual safety car pit box, was basically getting up to speed from the end of the pit to T1. So what I think it was a really bad decision, or a worse decision than that, was him going on mediums and having so many laps, because at this point you are basically guaranteeing that you're going to go until the end. You're going to have to stop again. So we have Mr. Earl again.
Hello.
So your internet is going to give me a little bit of work post.
I don't know what happened there.
No problem. So VSC then ended, and then on lap 16, Ferrari actually told, I don't know if you picked up on this, but actually told them not to short shift. Is this like gearbox problem, not to stress the gearbox? Because I don't know, it must be mechanical part of the linkages on the gearbox that they must have picked up on something.
You'd normally short shift to save engine revs, just slightly lower RPMs, and just not to max everything out. But I wouldn't be strange why they would tell him to not short shift.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, must be some gearbox wear stuff, because I don't see the point of that, to be honest.
Yeah, unless they were basically saying they don't need to worry about any condition of the gearbox, so they can go maximum as opposed to saving anything. Could be many things on the car that making them do that.
Yeah. So we then had many laps, and Russell actually pits lap 23, which is just under the middle of the race, because it was 53 laps. So lap 26, 27 would be middle of the race, but he was on soft. So when you go from soft to another tire, and the car is way lighter, so you just go for longer lasting tires, and you're going to make them last even more just because the car is lighter. So it was about the right time to pit, I think, for this race on softs.
Yeah, he did well to get there.
Yeah, but he actually pitted for hards. This surprised me a little bit, because the Mercedes, it's the car that's the most kind to its tires, I think, from the three teams, top teams. And so if you do 23 laps on a set of softs, and then you have like 28 laps to go, it seemed to me that the mediums would last more than that.
And unless their data is showing that it would be touch and go, so it's try the hards. So they've obviously got a lot more data than we have. Yeah,
it helps to mention that at this point, Perez was actually with good pace on the hards, and he must have been nursing his hards to go to the end of the race, because he pitted so early. So him having good pace just must have given them the confidence to go on the hards and have decent pace and be able to go to the end of the race easily.
Yeah, be able to push.
Yeah, be able to push a little bit. But then 2 laps later, Verstappen pits for mediums. So yeah, and he actually exits. Don't have that here. So he actually exits then on P2.
Yeah, I think he came out just in front of Russell, didn't he?
Yeah, not just in front. I think it was a little bit ahead of Russell, but I think it was like half of the front straight. But yeah, he had a little bit of a cushion, but not that much because Russell undercut him. So yeah, you had that. So at lap 29, I just have a note here that Leclerc and Verstappen are on the same compound of tires, but Leclerc's tires are 16 laps old, and Verstappen's tires are 3 laps old.
Yeah.
So at this time we had that cat and mouse thing that we thought it was going to be another like Catalonia 2021 or France 2021, that we had one of the drivers with much younger tires and trying to pass the other one. So we had that going on. And actually Sainz, I didn't put on my notes, but I remembered that about when Russell pitted, Russell just said to Ferrari, yeah, we're on the mediums, they are good, I think we should go to softs. And that's exactly what they did. On lap 30, Sainz pitted for softs until the end of the race, which just shows how kind on the tires this racetrack is, because you're going to do just a little bit under middle of the race to go to the end on a set of softs. So yeah, then Verstappen just goes fastest lap and goes catching Leclerc, and I think it's at this point that Ferrari just decided, yeah, we made a bad call here, and they pitted Leclerc for softs, and he exited 19.4 seconds to Verstappen.
Yeah.
Did you buy into the hype that was going, at least here in Portugal, was to the like Leclerc trying to catch Verstappen?
Yeah, but as I think they said on TV a couple of hours later, he's currently faster than Verstappen, but only by a tenth.
Yeah,
a tenth or 2 per lap. So it was never gonna.
No, it didn't seem like it.
If the race stayed green, it was never going to happen.
Yeah, and actually Hamilton pitted for softs as well. He started on the mediums, and 3 laps later, Norris pitted for softs. I was actually taking notes on Norris and Hamilton because they were quite on a nice little battle for best of the rest or something like that. So I just took a snapshot of that, but then Norris again. I think it was a sensor issue on the front right wheel gun that must have not triggered correctly, because the wheel gun was actually green. We talked about this because of Tsunoda.
You see the mechanic almost hit the wheel with it to try and trick the sensor to get it to go.
Yeah. So his
technology.
So it took 5 and a bit seconds to do that pit stop, which was... I put a note that maybe it was clutch problems because of the problem. We didn't know it was settings trouble that made him do such a poor start of the race. But it was a mega stint by Norris, because the undercut that Ricardo did to him, because he pitted way earlier, did basically nothing, because he spent so much time on the pits and still came right beside him. And he was behind him on the first stint. So yeah, I really think that if he would have been able to, like if the stop was like it should be, I think it would be ahead of Hamilton on the end, or at least thereabouts.
Fighting
him, and it would actually be a nice fight to watch. Actually, at this point, Hamilton was behind. Hamilton was behind all of this, so he actually came out ahead of Hamilton, but Hamilton would have to pass all of those guys. So it was De Vries, Zhu, Gasly, and Daniel. So he would have to pass those 4 drivers and then catch Norris and pass him. So it would have been a nice battle to watch.
Been entertaining.
Yeah, at least entertaining. So with that, actually Norris came out in the middle of that mess, and I saw maybe the best driving from pack driving from Hamilton all year on that, because he was very aware of the situation and actually passed 2 or 3 cars in one corner going to T1.
Yep.
So that was good. So yeah, from these cars, the only thing to note is that then Norris just went off and passed all of them and just went after Hamilton. He wasn't able to get Hamilton, but he just tried and went off, and so it was the correct strategy to pit more or less in the middle of the race. But he was so much kinder on his tires from the beginning of the race that he was able to extend the gap, the tire life of those mediums. And when he came out on the softs there, it was like so few laps to the end that he was able to push a little bit more on those softs. So it was a mega race on that part from Norris, just a bad start and a bad pit stop.
Yeah, which was enough to, like you say, ruin it for him.
Yeah, there's one more thing that ruined this race, but we'll talk about it later. Then Perez stops for softs because obviously his pace was horrible, and at this time Leclerc had the fastest lap, so I think maybe Red Bull wanted just to get the fastest lap point away. And then, ladies and gentlemen, let's come to the shenanigans of the weekend and the part where we're going to argue the most. In lap 47, another Mercedes engine decides to just had enough. I think Stroll was out as well, but they called him to the pits. So maybe it was the same problem as Vettel. So this was lap 47, and he actually stopped away from the racing line between the 2 Lasmos. And lap 48, we had a safety car. So Russell pitted for a used set of a scrubbed set of softs. Sainz pitted for a new set of softs. Norris pitted for a new set of softs. Verstappen pitted and Leclerc pitted. So they all pitted. The reason Leclerc pitted as well was because he didn't lose anything, because it's such a cheap pit stop for Verstappen that he would come out ahead of Leclerc anyway if Leclerc didn't stop. So because they would bunch up on the safety car, they just decided to pit him. Yeah, but the thing is, then lap 50, the car was still on track. So 3 laps later, the car was still on track, and they had no cranes on that part of the circuit. There was another thing that made it way difficult for them, which was the car was stuck in first gear. So they couldn't move it by hand. So they had to wait for a truck, like a moving crane, to them to pick up the car and take it away. And the rules on F1, and rightly so, have changed a lot. And so that we don't repeat another situation like Jules Bianchi, we have to wait for all of the cars to be behind the safety car and at a decent pace to have trucks on track to do stuff, anything to the car. So we had to wait so much time that it was actually race over. And the shenanigans part of this is that this is almost a carbon copy of Abu Dhabi last year, a taboo topic.
Yeah, as we said, we won't talk about it because everyone's got their opinion. But yeah, it's exactly the same situation. Obviously, they've slightly amended the rules since Abu Dhabi, but the crux of it was there wasn't enough time to follow the rules and cycle through all of the lapped runners and let them pass the safety car to get into race order before the race run out of laps. Race over, which is exactly the same as Abu Dhabi. Although there they let a couple people past and then started a race which was more for entertainment, shall we say, than following the rules.
Yeah. So my opinion, we talked a little bit before, so we are on the same page on this, and I already had a few discussions on social media about this. So they actually followed the rules this time. So they made changes to the structure. The FIA and the race control stuff changed a lot. So they now did what fans wanted last year, and still there's complaining. But yeah, I think you can say that. I'm not going to just talk for you, but yeah, they actually followed the rules and they did the right thing this time. And I actually think they didn't have as much time as Abu Dhabi to take the cars out of the way and all that stuff, because the car was really stuck there. These are almost 2-ton cars. You can't just try and lift them with manpower, so they had to wait a lot. And lap 50 or 53, the car was still on track with no one to get it out. So, and the pack was way spread around the track. It's actually a nicely sized track, but it's so fast that the lap time is so slow. But they go through a lap delta even on safety cars. So
I think that's the problem here. Is safety car came out, everyone has to go to a delta until they catch the safety car and form. It would have probably taken another 2 laps to get, because the grid was so spread out due to pit stops, and when the safety car came out, that it's another 2-3 laps just to get everyone there. Then another 2 or 3 laps to let the lapped runners pass the safety car and follow around to get to the back of the train to get the order to then do a race start. So it was never going to happen by following it by the rules, like you say.
Yeah, the thing is, in the beginning, like just ending the penultimate lap, they actually let the drivers that were in front of Verstappen through.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the race was
not enough
time. Yeah. So unlike Abu Dhabi, Verstappen was not the car behind the safety car when the last the penultimate lap started. So no point, because they then have to see which cars they have to let pass and then let them pass. And so yeah, there was basically no time to do that. Just enough time to arrange the race not end just behind the safety car. So the safety car ended on the last lap. So just for the photos, don't have basically an Aston Martin in front of them.
It's the only one they're going to have winning.
Yeah. So that was actually it for our race. Norris, by pitting, gave basically a place to Perez. So because he was in front of Perez before he decided to stop, and because he stopped, Perez just went in front of him. So it could have been a P6 for him, even with all of the shenanigans of the start and of the pit stop. So yeah, and Hamilton didn't stop was actually the clever one, or Mercedes were the clever ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, they basically banked on the race was going to restart. So it was a bet that came all wrong for them. So yeah, that was it for our race. So the top 10 was Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Perez, which he could get the fastest lap, Norris, Gasly, De Vries, and Zhou. So our rookie got his first points in just one race. Yeah,
I think Nick deserves a bit of airtime here because he did a solid weekend, considering he was in an Aston in FP1 and then getting told Saturday morning, "Oh, okay, Alex, is that you're going racing in the Williams?" Did a solid qualifying. Could have easily thrown it off trying to put a lap together, and and his race was very
nice, very clever.
Didn't make many mistakes. He was clean. There's some good footage of him afterwards saying he couldn't hold his shoulders up and couldn't move his hands. He was that tired and broken.
He had to. It was Senna style. He had to be lifted off his car.
Yeah, and that will just be not being conditioned to racing one of these cars for so long. But I think he deserved driver of the day, deserved his point. And
totally.
As we said earlier, I think he's a very good tick against his name to be in that car next year.
Yeah.
I can't see him being in any other car on the grid.
No.
But Williams have got to be sitting there going, "Look, come on." It depends how much money Latifi brings. If he's bringing that much money,
yeah,
which is why he's there.
But the thing is, Williams actually talked about, like, not Williams, but the new owners of Williams talked about this last year, that they were no longer as dependent of drivers bringing cash. They are not taking, as I understand, they are not taking as much of a benefit from Mercedes, that basically gave them free engines for them to put Russell there, which was probably one of the best deals that any team from that part of the grid did the last few years, because they got a excellent driver and they got free engines. They were actually linked with maybe trying to get another engine in there, so that shows that they must have at least a bit of money. Yeah. So what they have to think about, in my opinion, is where they want. If they feel confident that they can actually produce a car at least as competitive as this season, I actually think that they might be better off with De Vries money being the money that brings them from being ahead in the championship compared to other teams. So yeah, they have to really think about that, because Latifi is not delivering any results. He only delivers a suitcase of cash, and then he crashes the car and they have to pay for that. So they really have to bring up the accountant, because there's no question that De Vries is a better driver than him.
100%.
So yeah, apart from that, in race seat news, we have that maybe Mr. Gasly is not as close to being in an Alpine as we thought. That mainly because I think Red Bull were banking on being able to bring Colton Herta to AlphaTauri.
Mm-hmm.
And the last that I heard of it was I think someone said that Helmut Marko basically said, if we can get Colton Herta in the car, we'll release Gasly to Alpine. If we don't, we need him. Basically, it's that.
Yeah.
So that shows me one thing. I think. I don't think Tsunoda is going to be there anymore. Because...
No, he's not confirmed yet, is he? So...
No. And they're unwilling to just... Because they want to put Drogovic there, I think. Our newly crowned F2 champion. They've been talking a lot with Red Bull, so yeah, it's thrown another question to the next year's grid.
It'd definitely be interesting if you get Drogovic in the AlphaTauri and Jack Doohan's been linked with
Alpine.
The Alpine. Both worthy, both like top of the GP2, so and it's good for the sport, getting some more young blood in and
a big name. Let's not forget, Mr. Doohan comes with a big name, not on 4 wheels, but on 2 wheels.
Very big name.
Very big name. So, and very interesting because Mr. Doohan goes to all the races and all that stuff. So it's actually good for Formula One as well, not just for Alpine that gets a good driver. I don't think there's any question of his ability to drive a car. He seems to have taken his father's talent for driving 2 wheels and just got it for 4 wheels. Actually, don't know if his father is any good on 4 wheels. I think he did a little bit of V8 supercars.
I think he did a bit of it over in Oz, but nothing to shout about.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think we're going to have advancements these coming weeks. We're going to get like a summer break number 2 because it's actually a few weeks until the next race. So we're going to, let's see, because the next week is Singapore, a very high downforce week, a track, so it's completely different to Italy, and it's in the first weekend of October, so it's 1, 2, 3 weeks. So we have 3 full weeks until the next Grand Prix,
where Max can mathematically clinch the title. Yeah,
Max is actually 116 points ahead. So if he wins there, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races. So yeah, if he wins,
it's one of those.
Yeah.
If the other 2 don't finish and he wins it, I think there's the potential.
He has to get 34 more points. 34? No, not even that, because it's 125. So he has to get more 9 points than the next one. That's right. So because it's 25 points for the win.
Yeah, basically, if Leclerc has an issue,
that's it. Yeah,
but we'll see. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, and it's Singapore. Maybe it's a track that Mercedes can do well because it's high downforce. It's a night race. The fact that it's a night race, I think, will play a little bit in Red Bull's favor because temperatures are down, and maybe that helps them with their major, the worst flaw that they can have on
Yeah.
their car, that it's tire life. So that will help. So yeah, it might be a good weekend. It's one of those tracks. It's a street track, but we actually get racing there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might be a good one to watch. And it's going to be in the middle of the day in Europe. It's going to start at 1 in the afternoon for us, Portuguese and Brits, because we are on the same time. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Anything else to say about this weekend? Anything that you picked up that I didn't?
No, I can't say I did. I think we've covered about everything. It wasn't, compared to the last few weekends, other than the grid changes, there wasn't really a lot going on. I think the biggest thing was the freeze. I think that you take away from this weekend for me.
Apart from the cars that were obviously faster than the other ones, and they were able to go through the field, we had the 6 cars that we expected to form the P6 on the first 6 places.
Yeah, I think Sainz had a cracking drive, considering he came from P18, and I think he would have been a good shout for the win if he had been no grid penalties and starting in the top 3 like he should have been.
Even in the qualifying, he was very good. Just that last run was a bit strange, but he was actually very fast on qualifying. So I think we would have a little bit of a fight.
About Leclerc.
No, definitely not all about Leclerc. So yeah, Mr. Russell, Mr. Consistency, all the races that he finished.
Well, I think
P5.
If we go back to the previous episode and our predictions, mine was Verstappen, Russell, and then no one else because I couldn't think of anyone else. So I was close to it. He got P3.
I actually said Alonso that was out of the race for P2.
Did I say Alonso for P2?
No, I did. I did.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think he's...
Yeah, it didn't have... amazingly, I thought that the Alpines were going to be good at that track, but they really weren't. Ocon had a nothing race, and Alonso didn't finish the race with power unit problems. So yeah, it was hilarious, his radio message, because he just asked his engineer, "Do you have a problem with the engine?" And the engineer said, "No, nothing on our side," and it was like, wow. So it was just, how the hell are we so slow on the straights? So yeah, it wasn't one of those, and that resulted in McLaren scoring more than them. They could have scored even more because Ricciardo was up for a good finish as well. So yeah. It was one of those in that part, in that regard. But a good, solid weekend, a very good weekend for Mr. Max. We're actually going to have maybe a few nice episodes for the next weekend, the next weeks. We're going to try and do a podcast anyway, even though we don't have any races. But maybe we'll have someone here with us. Let's see. Keep up to date with us, with me at Pedro Barbosa SR, with Mr. Earl at Earl Goddard, and with the podcast, our handles are Bump Draft and Pray in all social media, and BDA Podcast, and BDA Podcast at gmail.com for if you want to send questions or anything like that. It's via that medium that you can do that. So I've been your host, Pedro Barbosa. We had Mr. Earl Goddard, and thank you for listening or watching, and goodbye.
Cheers, guys.
Bump, Draft and Pray is an independent podcast, and the music was by Letting Punks Know.